All right, let's get started. I'm assuming you can all hear me. If you can't, please just send a message in the chat. But let's get started. Firstly, I guess I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day today to join our latest agent webinar. It's been a while since we've last spoken, but yeah, it's really nice to see the travel industry, starting to get a little bit busier again and get back up on its feet. And we're really excited to share with you our latest free cancellation promotion today, which is going to form the basis of this webinar. Now, obviously, we've got a couple of special guests, which we identified in the emails that we sent out, including our CEO, Matt McCann, and also Chloe Walker, Tripfuser's COO. And we've also got Charlotte will be collecting all of your questions and running a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So if you do have any questions throughout while anyone is speaking, you will notice that there is a Q&A function just in the middle lower button on your screen. Please put your questions in there and we will come to them in our Q&A section at the end. As I mentioned, really excited to tell you about our free cancellation campaign today, but I thought we might start introducing Matt a little bit more about Tripfuser and what the travel industry is doing at the moment. Take it away, Matt.
Thanks, Ash. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Obviously, the last 18 months has been, a heavily challenged period for travel in this country, but globally. And so we really appreciate you taking the time today to learn a little bit about what we're doing with free cancellation and a little bit about Tripfuser. I mean, I get the chance to be able to go back a little bit and explain a little bit about who we are today. So when you think about Tripfuser, what we really are is a global marketplace for tailored travel that's powered by, really local designers and local experts on the ground who build for us and pull together and then ultimately support amazing, local, authentic, experiential travel for your clients effectively. That idea and concept was born sort of just on 5 years ago now and has now grown to the point where we've got just on 250 of our local designer experts on the ground, covering just 69 countries. So we've got to the point where we're now able to service a good portion of the traveling countries that your clients might expect to be in with real depth. And so it becomes a really interesting offering from the point of view of giving people something that is off the beaten track, a little different, a little local, a little authentic in the delivery of travel, customized to exactly what their needs might be. And whether that's I want to do something with a big group, or it's really small and really deep local experience, we can cover sort of all angles of that kind of design process. Part of our reason for really talking to the agent community is that our job really is to make agents look like experts everywhere. And by doing that with extraordinary depth and of sort of travel knowledge from what's happening on the ground, but also from the point of view of just sort of saving time and effort, covering the sort of 69, 70 countries that we cover, understanding exactly what the moving parts are. There is a very difficult thing to do. And so what we do is take, the inquiry effectively off your desk and work it really hard and give it back to you in a form that's digital and shareable, and fully customized to what your clients might need. And so from the point of view of a sort of service offering, anything that's non-standard, send in our direction, and what we can do is really work it hard for you. So ultimately, you can deliver, an itinerary and ultimately an experience that works for your clients, but you can do it also at a decent margin. Because often this is where the time and effort in building these trips starts to suck away at the cost of actually putting them together and understanding them. And so that's part of what we offer for agents. Probably the second part is just making sure that you've got the confidence of giving that to us. It is really about how we construct our network. And so Chloe will talk a little bit later about the process we go through, but these are highly skilled, very demonstratively expert people in each of the markets that we're in. And we won't launch into a new market until we're really comfortable with the mix of supplier support that we have on the ground and how we deliver those trips and know that they're going to have a really good experience, each one of your clients that might well be traveling. So from our point of view, we're here to help, and we're certainly here to help you navigate what's going to be a pretty interesting traveling universe over the next sort of 12, 24, 36 months. We think our working assumption internally here is that the bulk of travel this year will be domestic for outbound Australian travellers. It's the assumption I'm sure everybody on this call would share. We do see some glimmers of hope well, I say glimmers of hope, but glimmers of hope that we will be able to get some bubbles going. Obviously, New Zealand being the first and it up and running. Singapore, as we understand, is fairly well discussed in terms of getting to the point where the government may make some decisions about that, probably not before 30 June, as we understand it, but shortly thereafterwards. With also a range of the Pacific Islands being considered. I think as we get to sort of the Q3 of this year and into Q4, travel bubbles, meaning obviously no quarantine-free travel on both sides. The government is looking actively at countries like Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, because they've done reasonably well in terms of containing COVID-19 as a virus across those communities. We understand that it won't be before the Olympics should they go ahead in Japan, but after that, Japan would feature in that, and discussions have been had at a governmental level, which is promising. From our point of view, we think the way in which we navigate the universe of risks and issues that are going to pop up really comes down to understanding what will be announced and when it'll be announced. So being really clear and part of the information we're going to provide to you over time will be what is happening at that level. And so when bilateral arrangements come into play for bubbles, that we're there ready with them, with you, with a series of great example itineraries and obviously experts on the ground to be able to help take those to clients. And then obviously as things change, things will change, and we've even seen, small amounts of change when WA had an issue a few weeks ago where the bubble was suspended. And so part of that is really working with you using, our network of local experts on the ground to make sure that we're able to adjust quickly to those kind of situations. And it's really, really important that we support that on the way through, which will probably be our experience of this year. As we get into 22 and 23, we start to see, reasonably fully vaccinated countries starting to travel reasonably quarantine-free. Promising to see the US make some announcements about traveling to Europe in the last couple of weeks, where, and what we're starting to see within our business is US outbound bookings into Europe are starting to arrive, and certainly inquiries coming out of North America generally on the rise, which is promising to see a travel industry starting to move in that direction. But the qualifier here is, to do those things, you have to have been vaccinated, and one of the vaccines that has been approved by both, in this case, the US and Europe. So again, information is going to be critical here in terms of servicing, customers, and as we start to think about markets. So it's really important for us to be across all of that information. And one of the great sources for us is actually, our local experts on the ground and our travel designers who put these trips together, understanding exactly what's required in country. And that's part of the obviously what we help deliver to you and to your clients. And then we start to look a bit beyond that into really back to normal. Sort of, we think to late 22 into 23 we start to see some level of normal, and by 24 back to what we hope would be pre-pandemic levels of travel. And navigating through that will be a little complicated. There'll be a reasonable expectation on agents to understand all this information, and so information sources that come directly from on the ground are going to be really important in that journey. And so it's one of the things we're very keen to make sure that is understood in each trip plan we put together. Probably the couple of really pleasing things, I mean, even in the context of tough years, domestic demand this will be a record this year in Australia in terms of the amount of internal travel that gets done. We all know and live it a little bit that availability in Australia is getting tough through the end of this year. That we're seeing certainly accommodation providers a little more challenged. But probably the pleasing part is that actually premium bookings, so really high-end experiences, are selling in a way that they probably haven't before. You narrow the choice down and the market's focused here, which you would expect, but there's some really premium travel options out there that are being picked up by clients, and that obviously gives agents the chance, we're talking about premium travelers, of actually generating a margin in a universe where that's been tough in the last 12 to 18 months. So that part's the pleasing part. I think the challenge, as we saw it, a couple of months ago, and we started to put together the free cancellation policy, was saying we've got to give people the confidence to be able to say, I'm happy to book. And the difficulty with that is that anyone who's lived, as we all have, has lived through a period of having to deal with credits and having to deal with cancellations and refunds, knows that that's a difficult set of conversations. And oftentimes clients will say, I really want a refund, but the policy of the provider will be, I can only really give you a credit, and that credit comes with some terms and conditions about use and how they work. And that's one of the reasons we think there's a big hesitation about people saying, you know what, I am going to commit to 2022. I am going to commit to that type of travel. I am going to commit to a bubble trip. Is been because they don't want to end up in that universe again. And so that motivated us, at Tripfuser, to be able to think pretty hard about what the right solution to that might be. And ultimately, it was the genesis of the idea of the free cancellation trips. And so those free cancellation trips, and I know Ash is going to talk in a fair bit of detail about them, they were really built around this idea that the network, the way we construct it, our network can produce and allow you to book a trip and give you the confidence that actually within 21 days of departure date, we can give you your money back. So you get that peace of mind. And so when talking to clients, it's basically saying to them, you're not going to be stuck in a credit that you may or may not use. You're not going to be limited by what happens. We're just going to get your money back. So you've got something to look forward to. You've got a trip that's booked and you're ready to go. And the universe of reasons that might cause you to not want to go for our policy are unlimited. So you can just say to us, hey, I'm not going to go, and the money will come back to you. We think that's a really strong offer in the market, and something that we're obviously proud to be putting out there and certainly put together. I think probably, as Ash will talk to some of the detail, the big thing here is that we kind of want to work directly with the agent community. We want to say, hey, this is how we can construct these trips. We want to make you feel comfortable enough to be putting them in front of clients, and ultimately comfortable enough that that they're going to be able to see the benefits of booking well ahead of time. And one of the key elements of this is, at the moment, out there in that universe, if you're booking 22 and 23 travel, there's some great deals out there as well. So you get the benefit of that, plus the surety of knowing that you're going to be able to cancel even up to 21 days before you depart. And we think it's a really strong offering. So I think for me now, I get to hand over to Ash, but happy to take questions at any point today or later on in the Q&A about any of those aspects and even views about where we're going in the market. But I'll sort of finish up with a thank you to say we really appreciate you taking the time to be on a webinar today, and I'll hand you back to Ash.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt. Thanks so much, Matt. Now, for those of you guys that may not know me, I'm Ash, and I'm actually the head of partnerships here, marketplace partnerships at Tripfuser. And I'm actually lucky enough to deal directly with a number of our agents. And I know a few people on the call here today are people that I've, run through dashboard trainings and things with recently. So it's really great to see you here as we continue to kind of expand our agent community and really provide this incredible service alongside the free cancellation promotion that Matt just mentioned. So I'll just go into a few more details, and then I think the best thing to do is to show you a couple of our trips. I'm going to direct my focus today to a couple of really great New Zealand trips. Really exciting news that our Trans-Tasman bubble has recently opened, and we have not only a number of suppliers there, but I think we've got over 80 pre-existing fully customizable design trips in our gallery, covering all types of activities, durations, and price points. So you definitely have the luxury of choice there. Throw on the free cancellation promotion, and it really is, removing that uncertainty or that, booking hesitation that your clients, have experienced over the last 12 months. So in addition to obviously being able to get your money back 21 days prior to departure as part of this free cancellation promotion, it's really exciting to announce that not only are we offering this within Australia and New Zealand, but we've also expanded to a number of international destinations as we hope to see international travel pick up in 2022. Now, some of those countries include Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia, as Matt mentioned. But recently, we've also expanded into Indonesia, Northern Africa, Morocco, Peru and Uruguay, and also parts of Europe, so Slovenia, the Balkans, and that is continuing to grow, especially as Matt said, as we keep an eye on where the bubbles are likely to pop up, and we're continuing to expand our network to cover all of those areas. Another thing that I think we're really proud of, as we said, and we stand out in the industry at the moment, is offering this guaranteed refund as opposed to a credit, and also giving 21 days, which is pretty exciting. We've noticed that a lot of our other tour operators are offering credits within 30 days of departure. And not only that, but you also get to work directly with the suppliers on the ground. So their suppliers, they have real benefit of knowing what the situation is on the ground, and they've got the ability to tailor the trip to any of your clients' concerns. Now, what I might do is I'm just going to share my screen and jump into a couple of our New Zealand trips with free cancellation conditions, go through some of the details. If some of you haven't seen how incredible our itineraries are, you'll be able to see the level of detail that we go into, and also a reminder that all of the itineraries that are put through your agent dashboard account are all white labeled with your branding. So any trip inquiry that you submit to your client, the Tripfuser logo will be removed, and instead it is replaced with your travel agent branding. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, I'm hoping that you can all see my screen here. Great. So I'm just going to run through 2 trip examples in New Zealand, both with free cancellation conditions. One is an 8-day South Island active nature experience. As we know, New Zealand has incredible landscapes, mountains, lakes, glaciers, and it's one of the main reasons that a lot of our travellers tend to head that way. So this 8-day adventure begins in Christchurch and heads down to Queenstown. You'll head to Mount Aspiring National Park, Lake Wanaka, the Franz Josef Glacier, and then obviously there are an abundance of activities in Queenstown. Some of those which are swimming with rare dolphins, trekking through caves looking for glowworms, taking scenic helicopter tours, the famous jet boating adventures, hiking through Mount Aspiring National Park. There's a cycling wine tour. There's kayaking through the Milford Sound. Like, these trips that have been designed by the locals on the ground are packed full of activities. So super exciting. You'll see as part of our trip itineraries, we have a day-by-day overview. So this lists what you'll be doing each day. You'll see here where it says Maryville Manor. That is the accommodation that is included. Don't forget, all of these are fully customizable. So we can change the accommodation, we can change the duration, we can work to budgets, and we can also add or remove different activities. But these set itineraries are ones that the local suppliers or local experts have really designed for your clients. I won't go into each day details as I gave a bit of an overview to what the trip is, but you can really see the level of detail that is captured in these itineraries. And you have the ability to send a customized link to your clients with this trip itinerary, or you can download a PDF, which includes price, all the inclusions, etc. We also have a map view, so you can pinpoint whereabouts in the country, whether that's New Zealand, Australia, international, your clients will be heading. And if we scroll back up, we also have a detailed itinerary view. Now, this detailed itinerary breaks down each day and each activity, from accommodation to transfers to activities. We have all of the details included. I'll just show you, for example, dolphin swimming adventure. If you wanted any information, or your client wanted any more detailed information about what any of the inclusions are on any of our trips, we provide it under our detailed itinerary section. So you can see here, not only does that show you what is included, but it also shows reviews as well, which is pulled directly from Google. So you and your client can make the decision if that is the right activity for them. I mentioned we do have a map view, which is an enlarged version of the smaller one on the side, and you can zoom in to actually see in more detail whereabouts you'll be traveling throughout the trip. And then we've also got a calendar view. So this breaks down timings and activity blocks for everything that has been included in the detailed itinerary. So obviously these digital itineraries are pretty outstanding, and they are one of the key features. So when you show this to your client, not only does it have your branding, but it literally has every piece of information that they could possibly need. So what I might do quickly with this one is show you how you can actually create an instant quote. So an instant quote is kind of like what we would call a brochure page. And you've got the ability to share this with your client, showing or removing the price, and just really using it as a baseline to start designing their trip. So if we are to submit an instant quote, you would click the grey button here that says instant quote. And it's a super simple process. Here is the trip plan name that is fully customizable. So you have the ability here to edit this. And if you really wanted to, you could put that it was Ashes 8-day South Island nature experience. And this will change the trip plan name on your version. You also have the ability here to either hide or show the price. Now, what's really exciting about this is where you have the ability of full pricing control. You'll see we break down the price, the net price that's payable to Tripfuser, and then your markup. So as a travel agent, you automatically will get 10% of the net price. My account is set to 0 specifically for training purposes. However, yours will be pre-filled with, in this instance, let's call it $428. I think that's about 10%. So you've got the ability here to change that if you want. If you wanted to make more money off this trip or any of your trips, and you wanted to do it from this instant quote stage of the inquiry process, you have the ability to do that here. Let's say you wanted to make $500 off this trip. You would enter it into that section there, and it just gives your client a packaged price. So there is no breakdown of what you're making and what the trip price is. The price that is displayed to your client is the packaged price. Now, if we were then to put in the traveler's name, which I'm going to do a test, and click create, as I mentioned before, you then have the ability to share a custom URL or a PDF that you'll be able to share with your clients. And here are both the options. So if you would like to preview the trip plan or download the PDF. I'm going to show you the PDF as the trip plan looks very similar to the one that I've just run through. Okay, so can you see this now? It says that it's Ashes 8-day South Island active nature experience. The Tripfuser logo has been removed, and instead your logo will be placed in the top left-hand corner. It captures all of the information that I went through on the digital trip plan. And what's great on the bottom right-hand corner, if you send this to your client, this will be pre-filled with your information. So that will say that the trip is presented by your name, your travel company, and then your email address and phone number will be provided. Anything that goes out to your clients, they will always be directed back to you. And as Chloe will go into the process of our travel concierge and our local suppliers a little bit later, they will deal with you on behalf of your client. So that's a really simple way to, I guess, get a brochure page or an instant quote for your client to begin that discussion around designing their trip to New Zealand. What I might do next is I'm going to show you just one more of one of my personal favorite New Zealand trips that I'm actually hoping to book myself later in the year. And I'll show you how you can customize that trip through our inquiry process. I'm just going to bear with me. Okay, can you see my screen again? Okay, so food and wine is probably one of my favorite activities, which is why this trip plan is one of my favorites. As I mentioned, the last trip I think was about a 10 to 12 day trip. This one is a 3-day trip. So we definitely have variety in terms of trip durations, trip price points, and also activities. Food and wine obviously being one of them, but we have trips in New Zealand alone that cover golf, cycling, walking, you name it. You know, there's very activity specific adventures as well that you can filter by. I won't go into too much detail into this one, but we'll see obviously again that we've got a lot of detail captured. Hawke's Bay is, I think, the second biggest wine producing region in New Zealand. And this trip is all about food and drink. What I might show you is, let's say you wanted to add an additional day or change the accommodation or add an additional activity, how you can do that through our very easy customization process. Now, in the last example, we did this button on the right, instant quote, and this time we're going to click the customize button, big orange one here. This trip has been designed by Veronica, one of our travel designers in New Zealand, who has put this trip together as is. So with a gallery trip, you will automatically be directed to this travel designer to customize this trip for you. So we've got the ability here to put in the dates, whether they are flexible or specific. If flexible, you have the ability to choose a month and a year, as well as the length of the trip, whether that's 1 day, 4 days, 5 to 8 days, etc. Or as I mentioned, you can enter specific dates. So here we've got a calendar view. Let's say July, might be a little cold. Let's go to October. Let's pick 5 days in October. These are your set dates. Then we go down to the number of travelers and who they are. Let's say that we're traveling with 2 adults and they are a couple. You've obviously got the ability here to choose seniors, teenagers, children's, infants. It just gives us the buyer all of the information that they need to ensure that they're creating the right trip for your client. The type of accommodation, and if any accommodation is required, we're going to go luxury for this one to complement our food and wine experience. And then the last few questions, if your client would like any accompaniment, so would they like a driver and guide on this trip? Would they like to do it independently on a self-drive? Or are there certain elements that they would like to have a guide included? When you're planning to book, this just ensures that we're able to get the best pricing for you. So once we've got your travel dates, as well as when you're planning to book, our travel designers will work to get the best price. And then a really great feature here that we offer for travel agents is, do you have a trip in mind? So we actually took this feedback on from a number of travel agents that we spoke to who had clients come to them saying that, you know, their clients wanted a specific trip, but it was only offered as a group tour and they wanted to do it privately. So we've created this functionality where you can actually suggest a trip, whether that's via a web link, via PDF or a Word doc, and you can upload it and identify which parts of that trip you would like replicated and added into this existing itinerary and for the private trip. In this, there you go. Not adding a file, sorry, there you go. In this instance, we're going to say no suggestion. And then any additional notes that are really important for our local travel designer to know, this is where you would put them. So if there is a specific activity that they would like to do, if they would like to extend, if there is some really unique accommodation that they would like to stay at, this is where you would put this information. I won't go through and submit this inquiry to Veronica today, but once you continue, the next step is purely just to put a name, and then you will go to your agent dashboard, which I'll go to quickly here. And all of your inquiries will come up on the left. So you can track all of these quotes or inquiries that you have submitted. And as soon as a travel designer has come back to you, not only will you get an instant chat notification, but you'll also receive an email. But I will let Chloe talk more into the process. For those that may not have seen the agent dashboard or don't have an agent login yet, please reach out and we can organize that after this call. But this is what the agent dashboard looks like. And if you wanted to access our entire gallery, of free cancellation trips. So not only Australia and New Zealand, but all of them. You can actually access the trip gallery via this little black box at the top. I'm just going to open that up. And here we go. So this is our free cancellation trip gallery. In our entire trip gallery with Tripfuser, which currently has about 1,600 pre-designed gallery trips from our 250 suppliers, any trip that has this free cancellation banner falls in our free cancellation promotion, and you on all of these trips are entitled to a refund 21 days prior to departure. Now, I think I've gone through the detail of the trips, or two of my favorites anyway. I might actually now throw to Chloe, who will talk a little bit more about the process and how her team and from an operational side of things support travel agents on a daily basis.
Oh, thank you, Ash. Hi, everybody. My name is Chloe Walker. I'm the COO here at Tripfuser. I'm extremely excited to be chatting to everyone, particularly around these free cancellation trips. But just as a bit of background, I joined Tripfuser in January last year. Extremely excited about the concept of customizable travel and being able to work at Tripfuser and build our processes and procedures to enable it to be easy and accessible for not just our travel agent network, but for direct travellers. And of course, unfortunately, last year, COVID impacted our ability to grow our business out. So to be sitting here today talking to agents, but also be in our business at the moment and for it to be getting quite busy with inquiries, it's very, very exciting for me. So what last year did enable us in the sales and ops team was to spend a lot of time reviewing our current processes, understanding the challenges of customizable travel for travel agents particularly, and the process that they go through, and how to make it easier for you, and how do we use some travellers to make sure not only the inquiry process is good, but obviously so we all walk away with many bookings through this process as well, which is my focus to make sure the outcome for you and for us is that we're getting bookings through Tripfuser and getting our travellers some pretty unique and amazing trips that potentially they may not have been able to source before. So with that, I'm going to run you through some of the things that we have worked on and the way in which the team works and how we work together. So you'll hear this concept of our travel concierge team, and those travel concierge, they have names. We've got Georgia, Jen and Megan. They are a global team and they are available Monday to Friday, 20 hours a day. So what we are trying to aim, and the operational part of our business, is to make sure that there's really clear, concise communication between yourself and travellers to our suppliers. The process is really easy of customization or designing trips for travellers' needs. And I can tell you now, you've got a very good group of committed team members that want to design you the right trip. It's really important for us to get the trip plans right the first time so that we're not going back and forth and having to customize too much. It's about making it really seamless. And also they're there to create relationships with you so they can get to know you, get to know your customers, what are your travelers coming to you for, and making sure that you get matched with the right supplier to be able to deliver on your travel needs. So I think probably what Ash has covered, but it's most important to know there is plenty of trips for you to choose from within our gallery. The cancellation trip gallery is growing very quickly, and even in some cases where they haven't been in there, we've been able to talk to suppliers around getting the same terms for different countries that haven't yet come on board. But we do have 249 suppliers spread across the 69 countries. And the way in which the program works is, or the platform works, is when you pop through your inquiry, like Ash has just shown you, you will have chosen a trip, or potentially you might have chosen to design a trip because you're unable to find something. The first thing that will happen for you is that will go into our platform, and you'll hear straight away from our travel concierge team. Given that this is an Australian-based webinar, the person that you'll speak to will be Georgia. If it was your first inquiry, you'll actually get a call from Georgia. She'll make sure that you found the platform right, that all the information that we've received is exactly the trip that you're looking to design or the trip that you're looking to build for your traveller. Georgia is an expert in knowing who our local suppliers are. She works with them every day, particularly the Australian suppliers, New Zealand suppliers at the moment. She understands, who's an expert in what. And so depending on what the inquiry is or what your traveller is looking for, she'll match you with the supplier to meet your needs. So I like to try and think of this team as mini yous. Once you have put in the inquiry, they're there to do the hard work for you. So they'll understand exactly what you're needing from the trip, and you can leave the trip with them and they'll work with the supplier to design it. Their aim is to turn around these trips in 24 to 48 hours. And the aim is to try and get the trip as close to right based on the initial feedback as possible within that 24 to 48 hours. If there's more questions, you'll definitely hear from them daily and they'll be updating you. And if we are taking a little bit longer, which some of you may be aware because of the availability in Australia, we'll certainly give you an update on why we're taking so long, what it is that we need, or if there's anything additional, or we might have other suggestions for you to consider if we're thinking the availability might not be there. So Georgia will work with our local supply group and to turn that trip around for you. Probably one thing to note and to understand how the supply network works, Jen works very closely with them, who's one of the travel concierge teams, and she works with the local suppliers. We don't just source the local suppliers from anywhere. They do come through a training program. They do need to hold the in-country licensing, and we also do a very big review on their previous traveller reviews online. So we then spend a lot of time with them teaching the platform, explaining exactly what we look for, and they are all experts in customizable travel. Once you've received your come through as Ash has shown you, you can download it. We will then work with you on making sure it's the right one, and if there's any changes, then the travel concierge will be there to take that on for you. There is many agents out there that have built relationships with suppliers, and they will actually talk directly back and forth to those suppliers, and they tend to sometimes use the same supplier and over again if they've had a great experience. So you do have access to talk to the supplier directly, but again, the travel concierge is there 20 hours a day to help make sure that the trip's right, and that's obviously going to help us get the right trip, the best trip, but also help us convert it into a booking for you. The other thing that works really well for our team is we are able to work, if the pricing isn't coming in correctly, if the trip isn't quite right, we do sit back and work with the supplier and yourself, and as a group we'll actually try and get it to your exact needs. So an example was yesterday we've had a trip come through, and the client, obviously being domestic, it is a little bit easier for people to try and find things themselves. So for us, it's about finding unique experiences that a client can't go and find themselves, but also at a really competitive price. And we give you the backing of the cancellation trips as well. So we were able to apply the free cancellation onto the trip, and we're also able to get the price down for them, working with the local supplier in a relationship that we've had previously. So the travel concierge is there for all your needs, and our relationship with our suppliers enables us to design the trips that you're looking for. And that's really how it works. So I'm open to any questions as we hand over to Charlotte, or any more information about our suppliers or our travel concierge. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chloe. So as you all know, I've just been taking down questions throughout the webinar. So now we're just going to go through them. So one of our first questions that we have will be directed at you, Matt. The question is, are you just wholesale or selling direct to consumers as well?
Great, I think that question was from Cheryl. Cheryl, thanks for the question. How we allow people to access the marketplace is really across sort of three sets of relationships. So our primary one, and the one we spend most of our time focusing on, is this one, which is the agent channel. And so for agents, obviously, we've talked a lot today about how you might access and use the marketplace of experts. The second one is through affiliate partners. So we work with, and including our strategic shareholder, the RACV, one of our partners. So we work with them to build access to the marketplace and build travel experiences for RACV. And the third is that we do sell directly to consumers. A couple of things about that in that context is one, that the price that you're going to see for a consumer is going to be exactly the same one as you're putting in front of the customer. So there's no differential or advantage in using that. And in fact, in certain circumstances, we'd say there's an advantage in using agents because you get the added benefit of your knowledge and experience into how you construct and put the trip together. We started life with just a consumer channel, and it has gone from sort of focus 1 5 years ago to focus 3. The most of our effort goes into agents, and we continue to build and improve our experience, but we do sell across all 3. Some certain countries it's easier because obviously we don't just sell outbound Australia. We're a global marketplace, so you can be anywhere and give us an inquiry, and we have a reasonable number of North American people that would use the platform that should come to us directly.
Great. Thanks, Matt. So now we have our second question. So I believe this may be more directed towards you, Ash, but our second question is, do we have a provision of entering the travel dates in the itinerary?
I just want to clarify, do you mean in the inquiry process? So I'm not sure if you saw from when we customized from the instant quote, no, the pricing that is based off the instant quote is purely a from price, and that is likely to change based on duration and seasons, and if there is any customization. If you do, however, go through the customization process, yes, you can. So I showed an example, obviously, of just selecting the month if there is a bit more flexibility. However, we do have the ability to select specific dates, yes.
Great. Well, questions wise, that's all we've gotten today. Just we've got those 2 questions. Obviously, we are open to any more questions if anyone wants to put in some now. But yeah.
Wonderful. If there's no more questions, I know we've said it quite a few times today and you've heard it from us all, but thank you very much for attending. It's really nice to be able to jump online and have a great conversation with our travel agents. Again, we're really excited about where travel is heading domestically this year and hopefully international next year. We're really excited about our free cancellation promotion. So if you do have any more questions whatsoever, or any questions about anything really, about our marketplace, about any of our trip offerings, about the destinations that we're in, or about the free cancellation promotion, please shoot me an email or give me a call. agents@tripfuser.com is probably the best email if you don't have my direct details. But as I mentioned earlier, I would love to chat to you all. Thanks to Matt, Charlotte, and Chloe for joining us today as well, and just sharing their insight on the industry and the future of travel. And we look forward to seeing you all again, hopefully at our future webinar. Thanks guys.
Everybody.